Hi, True Crime Grapevine fans. It's me, Patty Lee, your armchair dyslexic detective, and we're here for our nightly nightcap. I have to change this light. I still think that's too much. Hey, how's that? Still a little much? How about just one? How's that look? Oh, not that one. How about just these two? Okay. Again, technology, not my thing. But my jam is true crime. So let's get to it. If you're new here, hi, I'm Patty Lee. I am a ABD educational psychology student. I'm a mom of three. I've been a teacher of all the way from pre-K, kindergarten, like first, second, third. I have taught in junior high and high school. Don't really love those ages, and mostly then I taught teachers in college. So lots of teaching experience, lots of experience in how people are motivated, how people think, how people lie, especially little people, um, and what motivates people. Really interested in how people form core beliefs, which are beliefs about what is real, what is good, and how do you know? How do you know what is good and true and right? And it was very dependent, and that sort of those beliefs drive everything else. Anyways, so and you'd be surprised, but it has a lot of overlay with true crime, which I've been into since I was a child. And I don't think I told this story before. So before I get into it, drinking a Moscow Mule as my nightcap tonight. Join me, Moscow Mule. Drink it in a copper cup if you want. It's just a bunch of ice, a big shot of Tito's vodka. I like Tito's because it tastes smooth, and it's reasonably priced. Ginger ale or ginger beer, but I just put regular ginger ale in, and a half shot of lime juice, and then you just mix it up and mmm. Hi, Kate the Great. So Moscow Mule, refreshing, limey, citrusy, sweet. It's got all the things I like. The story I was going to tell you, yeah, it is yummy. The story I was going to tell you is that my first real experience, I guess I've always been interested in like cemeteries and death, which is a little creepy. I didn't know that except my mom. I thought why our family was into cemeteries. She's like, no, you wanted to go see them when you were little. Sad, a little weird, but yeah, I love cemeteries. I don't know why. I love the artwork. I love the history. I mean, I like cemeteries that are like old fashioned ones with like I call them houses. It's just really calm and beautiful. It might seem weird to some people, but maybe because I was an ADHD hyper kid, I don't know. I just felt it was a calming, beautiful space, especially historic cemeteries. But my first actual experience with true crime was in seventh grade when in my small town there was a murder of a young lady. I was in seventh grade, I think. She was a senior, beautiful, popular in a very small town, so everybody knew everybody, and she just disappeared off the streets. She was like at her boyfriend's house. I think they had a fight, and she was walking home, not like a block away. Small town where everybody literally kept their doors open. I think my house didn't even have a lock that worked on its old door. She disappeared, and her body was found later, after the spring thaw. She was found in a wooded area, and I was too young to know if there had been like SA, but I did go to the funeral. It was my very first funeral. The whole town went. It was horrible, emotional, just surreal. And later on, there was a working serial killer that later on was caught in Texas as a like 20 something and then was put to death. He was in the area and he was very good looking. Hey, Suzanne. Hey, Suzanne, tomorrow is payday and I am getting Crown Royal. I have already made plans. I'm either going to get the vanilla or the apple. I'm leaning towards the apple because I think it'll be, I've done some research. Seems like Crown Royal apple is sweet enough that I could sip it, but also like I could put it with apple drinks. I think it sounds good. So if you like that, let me know if that sounds like a good thing to you. My other alternative was vanilla. So, Suzanne, you make the choice. Should I get vanilla Crown Royal tomorrow, or should I get apple, or should I get the baby bottles of both and see what I like for the next for tomorrow's um, Thursday night's nightcap. So I got to get going though. So that was my little backstory about how I actually got into true crime. Was a real murder in my hometown, and I think it was a serial killer because he was working in the area. There was another girl that was snatched, like where his town was. Our town was like to the east, and the other town was to the west. Same similar situation. A girl walking home late after work and snatched, and the guy was really good looking. So I think he was working when he was just 18 in our area. And actually, my friend, we went to his small town and we met. Like I saw him as a it was like the next year or two. So I think I was a freshman, and he was cute. And I remember saying, "Who's that cute guy?" Dudes came. He was a serial killer. So again, it's there. He was like a Ted Bundy, looks wise. That's not how he approached people. And he was not like charming to his victims. I think they were girls, and he didn't really spend a lot of time. Um, Apple. Apple. Yeah, I heard the peach is best too, but I think it's harder to get. And yeah, it's not sold so I just if I can find the peach, I'll get it. I like the pink bag. But otherwise, then it'll be apple. So that's our pick for tomorrow night. All right. I started a little late. I don't like to go too much after midnight, and we're going to go past midnight. So let me just tell you, there has been so much crime. There's not enough time. I'm going to try to get through these things. We've got 2 missing kids. The missing kids are hard, you guys. She's been reported to be a 3-year-old from Oklahoma and also a 4-year-old. So I don't know if she was like she had a birthday in between. She's been missing since December. Again, her mother didn't report her missing right away. We all know when parents don't report missing. The other one is a 11-year-old girl who went missing on November 21st. Like her last known sighting was getting off the bus. And yeah, her mom, who is, I think her mom is like 39, and her stepdad's 60. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's kind of a big whatever. What's wrong with it is that nobody reported her missing until the school noticed December 15th. So she last was spotted November 21st. Then it was Thanksgiving. And then she never returned to school. So finally the school's like, hey, she's truant. And the mom finally was like, oh, she's missing. After that, she was truant. Like, okay, lady, and missing. Oh, she's been missing, I think it's 33 days, 23 days, 3 weeks. So yeah, hun, that's not cool, right? And we know how these stories end. We've seen it with Casey Anthony. We'll be watching these stories. So there's a 3-year-old girl, and her name's Athena Brownfield, which is sad because remember our other little Athena from Texas who was getting her Christmas present, instead got run over by the truck / whatever, grabbed in. But I love the name Athena. This is Athena Brownfield. She is from Cato County in Cyril, Oklahoma, and she was last seen at her home, but they aren't sure when that was. She was reported missing this past Monday, I believe. What's weird is Tuesday night, they found her 5-year-old sister. That's what happened. She was last seen, they think, Monday, but her sister, who is 5, so a year or so older, was found by a post office worker delivering mail, I guess. She was found Tuesday night, but they can't find Athena. And they don't know how long Athena's been missing. Now they're looking in waterways, and they say the exact date is unknown, which is always bad. And I don't have a way to put up pictures. If you go on Twitter and look, all you have to do is put in the search bar 3-year-old Oklahoma missing, or put in Athena Brownfield, and her picture will come up. She's absolutely beautiful. Let's hope. Our social services, our schools, the problem is all our tax money is seemingly spent on helping businesses because we all believe that, like businesses need help, and like we offer tax rebates if a business will settle in our city. A lot of money goes towards economic stuff. And then we have streets and some infrastructure, even though it doesn't seem like that gets done a lot. And then the stuff that we want paid for doesn't seem to get done. And I've heard this before, from my German professor, believe it or not. He was talking about they pass laws in countries about things they value. And he was talking about in Germany, they have laws about the purity of chocolate. They really care about their chocolate, which is interesting. But to be a little tongue in cheek, yeah, Guten Tag. To be a little tongue in cheek, we talked about, but like children in America, they don't have economic there's no economic reason for politicians to listen to them. Children can't bribe a politician. So politicians have to either care about kids, or if they care about money instead, you know how the lottery goes. They say it's for education, and all they do is make an education budget. They have a number that's like millions of dollars, but they know that the lottery will make, like this Friday, right? It's supposed to be bazillions of dollars on Friday the 13th. That money will all go, it just passes through. So they're like, oh, we budgeted this and we made that much. And then it's all extra for the slush funds of whatever they want to do for their pet projects and their donors' pet projects. And yeah, yes, Suzanne, I agree with you 100%. Our, a lot of our services aren't serving regular people, and especially the social services. We all know the Harmony Montgomery story. Now, they haven't said they found any of her remains, although I think they did find evidence of that when they went into her apartment this past summer when they looked at where they used to live. And I do think that the stepmom told more, and that's why she didn't get such a bad, she wasn't in jail. They kept letting her out. And her dad Adam is now locked up, and he's going to be prosecuted probably this year sometime. All right. So the little girl from Sierra, Oklahoma. Now she could show up. Her 5-year-old sister was found. She's absolutely beautiful. Let's hope somebody just was like taking care of her for a couple of days, maybe. She's in Cato County. She has brown hair, blue eyes. She is 3 foot tall. She is 48 pounds. She is so beautiful. And yeah, she was last seen at home, and now she's missing. So if you have any information, please call the Oklahoma State Bureau at 1-800-522-800, or you can email it to email space tips@osbi.ok.gov. And the other missing child is Magdalena Corjonli. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. She's from Cornelius, North Dakota. And Pretty Lies and Alibis, Gigi, did a story about her. So like I said, she went missing in November. She was reported December 15th. As it stands now, they haven't found any hide nor hair of her. Her mom, Diana, was thought to go north to around Asheville, North Carolina, in a sort of light tealish Prius. And they're asking anybody who may have seen this light teal powdery Prius, like a seafoam green Prius, to please contact the North Carolina authorities. They did find a weird little plywood thing in her backyard, like a little, like in the ground, and plywood was over it. Were they keeping her in? I don't know. It's very sad. She is a 6th grader. She's almost 5 foot. She's 4'10". She only weighs 90 pounds. Tiny girl still. Sounds like she's 6th grade, hasn't gone through puberty yet. So looks small. Her mom and dad were both arrested the next day. 2 days later. They reported her missing after the school came looking for her on December 15th, and they were arrested on December 17th. So at least in North Carolina, they didn't, F around. They put these people in jail for failure to report a missing child for that long. If you have any information about this missing child, 704-892-773. That's not enough. It's the Cornelius, North Carolina PD. I didn't write down 1 That's my dyslexia. I'm missing a number because that's not enough numbers. Go to Pretty Lies and Alibis on Twitter, Gigi, or on YouTube. She's a great channel. I highly recommend her. Go check out her story about the Madalena. It was in her yesterday upload. All right. So, I need to give a shout out to Posey or Wozy, my grand cat, I guess. All right. So that is what is going on in missing kids. Those are like our two news stories. My like newish story from this week was Anna Walsh. She is the 39-year-old mother from Cohasset, Massachusetts, a very well-to-do suburb around Boston area in Massachusetts. They had just moved into their house and they were renting it, I guess. And if you had been on my stream, I was chatting with KCT and she was saying it was weird because Anna's old house was on fire like the next day, just this week. Now, I don't think it has anything to do with it, but when she said Anna's old house, I wonder if that's the house they moved from, which then makes it even more strange. So I'm not so sure that was just a weird, they said it was an oil thing and blah, 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 but I don't know. Her husband, now, they have confirmed that, yes, he did Google how to dismember a 150-pound woman, which is how big his wife is. He did lie and say he was going to other places with his mother, and what he seems to have done is gone to a dumpster by his mother's apartment. They are now checking out and going through. They're doing like what they did with Quentin Simon. They're going through the dumpsters. It's horrific. She, I guess, did call her mother right before the holidays and begged her to come home, like to come see her. And we said she spoke with a Eastern European accent, and they said her mother in Serbia. So that's where her accent came from. And her mom now, of course, is all torn up that she didn't jump on a plane. But, it was the holidays, and it's kind of very expensive and very difficult to fly, just get up. Oh, she was on Spotify too? Yeah, the Home Depot thing is unbelievable that he bought for, yeah. So first of all, he wasn't supposed to be going anywhere without permission, and he just did. Why? Because he had fraudulently sold fake Warhols. The thing was, he not just sold fake Warhols to somebody, he had gotten two of these actual Shadow series Warhols from somebody he knew in South Korea. He did have them. That's why he had actual pictures that showed that they were like auctioned off and had been authenticated. Their provenance was from the Andy Warhol, whatever age. Each famous artist usually has a group that authenticates and is like specializes in that artist's work. And then he sent this guy something else, and it didn't look like the pictures, and it wasn't. And he bilked him out of $80,000. The guy got like 30,000 back, but he wanted the rest of the money. He said if he would have gotten the money, he wouldn't have even sued. But he ended up suing Brian for fraud. Brian then, the thing was, he had the actual ones and he sold. So he got these things to sell from his friend, sold fake ones to somebody in America, and then somehow the actual ones are out of the country. So he's an art thief, and he's doing fraud with, like I was going to say grand mal. That's in medicine. What's it called? When you like grand larceny fraud. I mean, lots of money. But that's not all. We've also learned that he had a broken relationship with his father. He, I think, is a liar, but not just a liar who lies, but a sociopathic liar, meaning he lies just to lie and doesn't feel bad about it. his cousin or friend, somebody from his family, I believe, said, yeah, he spent like 6 to 7 years in a mental hospital, and it was confirmed. It was called, I wrote it down, something Ridge, Austin Ridge. And he got this, and the reason that people end up institutionalized for a while is because they can be very dangerous. They often steal and take people's money, and it's the DSM, which is the Diagnostic Manual for Psychologists. Sociopath and psychopath aren't in it. They call it antisocial personality disorder. But when somebody doesn't have any empathy and really doesn't care, they can appear very charming. Um, they're chameleons. They lie. In fact, so I have a book report. I mean, I can read parts of it if you guys want. It's called The Psychopath Next Door by Marcia Stout, right? PhD. I had a other I was talking to somebody I was tutoring in statistics when I was a grad student, and she was an actual counseling therapy student. And the person I was describing to her that I was having a hard time with, she's like, yeah, you need to read this book because that person's jerking you around, and maybe literally just for fun. Sociopaths, they're not all, they don't all kill, they don't all have bloodlust. This is a great book. But they tend to like people who are nice, because it's like fun. The really nice people who will help them out when they need. It's really a very odd relationship. But anyways, this, I highly recommend that book, and maybe I can read some of it to you. And Suzanne, I would like to know what she had on Spotify. Spotify, I know, right? People put their songs in. So would love to know what her Spotify list looked like. So anyway, it's just very interesting. I think one of the reasons he then was, I don't think it helped him very much. It must have been maybe when he was just like still maybe living at home. I don't know. It sounded like it was more recent, but maybe he had committed some crime and it was part of doing that to get out of the crime. I don't know if it was in relation to his art theory, but anyway, his dad passed away somewhat recently, I guess. But when he passed away, he had been estranged from Brian. But that didn't matter to Brian. As soon as he knew his dad was dead, he got in there. He found the will. He destroyed the will. Now, a neighbor had taken like pictures of it. So there was proof, but Brian didn't know that. And he's like, oh, there's no will. I'm looking at what Suzanne's saying here. Oh, lots of podcasts and archive. Really interesting. Okay. Oh, you mean Gigi is on Spotify too? Yes, she is. She does hers as a podcast / YouTube channel. Sorry, Suzanne, I thought you meant Anna Walsh, who has gone missing and presumed dead, had a Spotify list. And I thought, ooh, I hadn't heard that. What was on her Spotify list? That would have been interesting. But yes, we love Gigi, True Lies and Alibis. I've been listening to her since she's been when she was just talking about the Lori Daybell, Lori and Chad Daybell case. Okay, so this is all to say, I do believe Brian Walsh has all the hallmarks of a sociopath, which means, his wife got in his way. And the weird thing was Josh Benson at WFLA, which is the channel out of Tampa, Florida, which is a digital channel arm of NBC down there and does a lot of true crime, which is a digital channel arm of NBC down there and does a lot of true crime. They said that in the last 6 months, her friends reported in the last 6 months, something was off. Anna rushed to get rid of, she rushed to get rid of all her assets, including her car. They had a Ferrari that he had given her, and the apartment, and I think that means in Washington, and it was sold for cash. Now, was she doing this? And she told them she kept promising a big surprise in the new year. Now, was Brian getting her to do that? so he could have a big surprise with all the cash. Because all his crimes, stealing from his dad after he died, which he eventually got into trouble for because he sold his dad. He had like mirrors, very like all this expensive jewelry. And his cousin came in and said, "No, I'm the executor. This guy has this history." And he got in big trouble for that. But he didn't care. He just goes, he really seems to be a sociopath. Well, I'll just go on and do another crime. And did Anna get in his way? Did Anna think they were going to run away? Did Anna think they were settling because, or did Anna think, okay, Brian's going to be sentenced for this art theft. He's going to go away. And when he does that, I'm making my move. I'm getting everything in cash. I'm going to disappear. Go back to Serbia. I don't know. Take the kids and run. Maybe she figured out this dude, 6 years with him or however long they've been together, 10 years, that was enough. She figured out he is a sociopath. I think maybe that really was what she was doing. It's my ADHD too. Oh, it's good to know. But people with ADHD do also tend to be more creative. So there is that. It might just be being more right-brained than left-brained, maybe, perhaps. Not all bad. All right, so that is what the update on the Walsh case is. He is in jail under, they're holding him under the line to delay because he lied about where he was, and then they had to go look that up, and he delayed them, and he didn't report her right away, so delayed them in investigating where she went. So we've seen this story before. They're basically holding him so that they can put him, get him for what they're going to find in one of these two landfills. There's one closer to them, I believe, and then there's one in Peabody, Massachusetts, where his mom's dumpster went. So they're trying to find her. It would be great if she were alive, but I think that seems unlikely. All right, so what are we up to? Leilani, I told you, Simon, speaking of dumpsters and looking for dead bodies, she was supposed to be, by all accounts, the last thing on the interwebs is she was supposed to have a prelim hearing today. Now, there was a gag order, I believe, at a certain point. So, but we heard about they might not be in court, but I thought they'd say, yes, she had a prelim. We didn't hear anything. So, was it moved? Did she make a plea deal? We don't know. I'll be paying attention to that. The other person I told you that was a big crime that everybody covered was Larry Migliette in Chula Vista, California, who in January 7th of 2021 seemed to unalive his wife and take her body the next day, 6 hours or so out of town. Now, unlike Brian in our Idaho story, Larry Migliette, he's a little bit older, and he had some technological background. His car had an info system, so they kind of knew. He only used it to get back home from wherever he went. He took his 4-year-old son. He forgot his phone at home. See, Brian, that's how that's done. So they just know. And he said he went to work, and then his boss had been calling him, did not go to work. Then he said he went to some beaches, and they couldn't find any, his car anywhere. No, they don't know where he went, but he went somewhere 4 to 5 hours out of town. And he had pulled in after nobody had heard from Maya, and she had no more action there. Her phone was turned off, like nothing on her phone after like 1 o'clock in the morning on the 8th. In the morning of the 8th, like at 6:45, he pulls his car, like backs it into the garage so you can't see what he's doing. Oh, and the night before there were 9 bangs, which everybody thinks are shots, but the FBI couldn't say they were shots. And the children were outside at 10:37. So it's like Daddy was cleaning up something. And it was very cold. It was January, even though it was California, and it was 10:30 something at night. It all bespeaks of obviously something horrific. So he is now going through his preliminary hearing. It was the first day today. And so basically prosecution retold the story about She had called, her last call was to a divorce attorney, the person who had her intake form, who said, yes, she called, yes, she wanted a divorce. That person was on the stand today. So they're laying the foundation for, she didn't just take off. No, she disappeared. And then they think it's going to take 3 weeks. So we'll have at least a week of, if not a little bit more, of the prosecution. So there'll be more tomorrow. So we're just getting going with this. It started, the courtroom started at 10 and it went to 4. So they basically just went over the timeline this morning. And I talked to you guys about that a little bit yesterday. And if we want to hear any more about that, we will. You would think that that these men would, that they would get, you would think, that they're not going to get a divorce. Well, so we know that Larry Miliete, both Milietes, their families were from, I believe, the Philippines and then moved to Hawaii. But especially he did have a background in sort of mystical religion, and he had been contacting a spellcaster. He loved his wife. He didn't want a divorce. That's the problem. They don't want a divorce. It comes down to, if I can't have you, nobody will. And once you get to that point, that's where women have to understand, no matter how nice the guy is, if you're going to be leaving, if you're the one leaving, your most dangerous time is when you file for divorce or when the divorce comes through. And like, he had choked her before, he said. She had told her friends that he had choked her. If there's any kind of that, you have to lie, smile, make your plans quietly, get the fuck out. You can't tell anybody, because the minute you say, I'm filing for divorce, your life is on the line. It's really sad. You'd think, though, that people would understand. You can't, even if they can't find the body. Now, I'm waiting for karma or whatever. I can't wait till Suzanne Morphew's body is found. That whole situation, I have to do a thing about that. That just gets me every time. All right. So we'll be talking about the Maya Miliete, Larry Miliete case. And the thing really sad is, I think his parents still have his kids. Yeah. So he was contacting spellcasters about make her love me. And then right before this happened, he had changed it to make her have an accident, make her break bones. So basically she's stuck there with him. He didn't care. It's really frightening how he thought she was a thing, like not a person with her own agency, but his. Really frightening. So hopefully that circumstance case goes. All right. There was a settlement shifting to South Carolina and the Alec Murdaugh case. The big, if you've watched the Mandy Matney podcast about the Murdaugh murders, or if you've watched the 48 Hours, or if you're up at all, you know that Alec Murdaugh his life first started falling apart due to the Mallory Beach boat accident on Archer Creek, where his son, Paul, who often drank way too much and wouldn't let anybody else drive. We've all known those people, right? That they, Oh, amen about that. Sorry, Suzanne just mentioned she can't wait till karma kicks in about Lori Vallow's butt. Hi, Sadie Mae. And let me just tell you, her last filing this beginning of this week or end of last week was an alibi sheet where she just wanted to let the court know. I mean, her lawyers did that. She wasn't there when the kids died. The kids died at her brother's apartment next door. It's okay, Ben. And hey, she wasn't there, which it's weird because her charges are conspiracy. So I don't know why she's admitting to knowing that her kids were killed next door, but hey, I wasn't there. Okay, but now you just told us you knew about it. I don't know. I'm sure there's some legal wrangling, but what chutzpah to be like, well, that's my alibi, girl. Oh, all these other people, when your kids disappear and you don't say anything and you lie about being married, no, sorry. You guys, and you're not being severed because you are sealed for all eternity together to go through court together. Explain that, bitches. All right. Sorry. Back to Alec Murdaugh. See, Suzanne, I I got really, and yes, Joe Ryan, of course. Her sunglasses were there. Do you remember that? His sister, whose podcast, she called it Annie Cushing. It used to be called Analytics, and now it's called A Murderous Heart. But when she did it under the name Analytics, she had all these pictures, and in one of them, there were sunglasses like Lori wore inside Joe Ryan's apartment that she wasn't supposed to have been there. They were divorced. She hadn't spoken, like, definitely. And there was scuttlebutt that she and Tylee had gone there. Dude, I don't know what they were doing to make people have heart attacks. And the window was open in the back, like with the screen taken off. But oh no, he just had a heart attack. That whole thing was not kosher. But yeah, I think so too. 100%. And that was before she ever met um Chad Vallow. I mean Chad Daybell, whatever. They're Vallow Daybell together. They weren't great together, but if anybody was the instigator, it is her and not him, because she's got a line of them, and he started killing when he met her. I mean, I think he's a doofus, don't get me wrong. I think he's a doofus. I mean, I think he does think it, but that is a murderous heart. That's some pure evil shit there. And she was malingering, I do believe. That's what happened, and we will find out more about it. I don't think she was ever whatever. She's always flipping that hair. And I think she totally pretended, this is all my opinion, this is all allegedly, you guys, but her roots were showing so bad. I think she said, "Oh, I'm incompetent again," just so she could go back to be evaluated and have her roots taken care of. I don't doubt that. Okay, I'm getting a little, yeah, it was the perfect storm, 100%. You and I, we're vibing, totally get it. All right, so back to South Carolina and Murdoch. I know it's so easy to stick with those cases. That's April that we're gonna get into them, and I can't wait. April 3rd. But with Alec Murdoch, the case that started it all, because it was a civil suit that the family of Mallory Beach had sued the Murdochs, Maggie Murdoch, Paul Murdoch, Alec Murdoch for being his buster, for giving his ID, and Alec's finances had to be looked into. And that was the big, like, but I, am a thief. So that's when his house of cards literally and figuratively was falling apart. Right now, there was just a settlement. John Martin, representing Buster and Maggie's estate, basically got Maggie's estate and Buster out of that lawsuit. They promised to do some things. It's really interesting because Palmetto State Bank is part of the funding of, I think they're gonna sell some properties to pay the Beach family and the other victims. Connor, who was blamed for it when it wasn't him, and he was harmed in the accident. So they will be taken out of it. So right now, as it stands, if this goes through, the only people left in the lawsuit are Alex, the convenience store that sold the alcohol, and there's one more person. Who is it? Alex, the convenience store, and yep. Who's the third one? I know I wrote it down. I have like a million notes in a million places, people. Why? Because why not? I know I wrote it down. The settlement. Oh, Alex. Oh, Paul's estate. So Buster's out of it, which he's the only living Murdaugh that's not in trouble. And John Marvin is Alex's brother, and he brokered this whole deal to save Buster. So they're all saving Buster, and that's what it comes down to. Do you think Buster may be charged? No, because Buster's an idiot. No offense. He's drunk, college kid. And then he was working. No. And Paul wouldn't have been, nobody really, Alec, now, I personally, and this is pure speculation, but just from having friends who work in law firms, I do not believe that the other lawyers at the firm didn't wonder where some of that, like, even though he was moving around money, he didn't work all by himself. He was a partner in that firm, which means at the end of the year and probably quarterly, all the partners put their money into the partners, they pay their bills, and then they all take what's left out of it. So they're like, "Oh, well, he got caught that last time." That to me seems like an excuse. It's still the good old boys network. I hope Mandy Mantney stays on this. It seems to me that it is no different than the Giraldi case, where at Giraldi Keys, all those lawyers knew what the hell was going on, and there was a judge involved. You can't do this shit by yourself. You need the bank person, you need the judge person, and you need all the other lawyers because you're all sharing the same money. So you can't just dip into it and take it because somebody's like, "Hey, where's my cut of that case?" That's what happens. So I think that John Martin, yeah, I think what they're doing is Alec got in deep enough that they're cutting him loose so that the whole network doesn't go down, including, and I think he's okay with that because his son will be saved and his brothers. But just my opinion, just my speculation. There's more. It's no different than the Girardi Keys lawsuit. He wasn't working by himself, just moving those monies. Other people had to be asking where that was. He did it for years. Years. They knew. They knew. They turned a blind eye. Why? I don't know. Did Alec have something on them? Or were they getting a cut somewhere? We'll see. I don't know. Yeah. Alec had, well, I don't know if he had, the pill problem couldn't be all that bad because he was selling those pills. That's another thing. I don't believe he was an opiate addict. I think he was an opiate. Like I think he was selling. I don't know how many pills he was taking. Not nearly the amount of pills they were talking about. You would die. You like he couldn't have operated. And I don't know. Not that he didn't take some, but I think Alec was involved in shady shit, like deep, dark, stanky, shady shit. Personally. And he got in so far that they cut him loose because they're going to save themselves. That's what I think, personally. That is just my opinion. That's just my speculation. So all I know right now is just with that civil suit, only Alec and Paul's, because Paul was the driver who killed everybody through his recklessness. Alec let him take the boat, even though it was supposed to be a business boat, and his son had no business. He had no business, literally and figuratively, taking that boat because it was only insured for business expenses, like taking out people related to the law firm. He was not supposed to, it wasn't a family boat and it wasn't insured as such. And then the people who sold him liquor, I mean, he didn't match his brother's ID at all. Now, the thing is, everybody knows that Murdaugh got their way, and if they didn't, the police would come and visit you, and there's lots of examples of that. So I'm wondering, technically, yes, those people shouldn't have sold him alcohol. In reality, I don't know. Would they literally have been in trouble with the law if they didn't do what a Murdaugh said? It seems like it down there. I don't know. All right, so that's what's going on, and Alec is going to trial on the 23rd. So for murder of his son and his wife. So that's going to be very interesting. Okay, the Idaho 4, nobody can shut up about it. They're all talking about now where his phone was pinging, and the loop that he took the night. The next day, he took this big trip, and then on the way home, he took a loop, and everybody's saying that's where he got rid of stuff, and he turned his phone off into the airplane mode, a la Barry Morphew. It's going to be interesting. Cell phones, if you really listen and read the affidavit, it says that it was in the neighborhood or the vicinity or something. I forget what the exact wording is of the tower that served this big area. There's going to be a problem with that because the defense is going to show us the cell tower that serves. I know where I live, it can bounce. I'm close enough to a state line that it can bounce into the other state. And the police, when we moved in here, actually said, if you have a real true emergency, call the police station. Do not just call 911 because it's gonna bounce to the other state, and then it's gonna be it'll take an extra long time to get it into your state because the nearest cell tower is actually across the state line. So, and if a cell tower that you're closest to is full, like there's too much activity on it, then it'll bounce to the next cell tower. So seeing his car on video is good. The cell coverage thing is going to be a little bit more iffy. Do I still think he is probably the person that had did this? I think so. I am still convinced that Xana was the person he saw. I'm convinced the reason Xana's dad had to fix her door handle on her room the week before the murder occurred was because he was getting in there at some times and making sure that Xana's door did not work. I think Xana was the main target. Um, and I've already said before, I think he had a thing with making his first kill like BTK's first kill, which was the Otoro family. And the Otoro family had a dog that lived. And everybody has said that when a serial killer or killer has a target, they're locked in. They don't like to change. So if he was following these girls on social media, if he had applied to be a digital analyst for the Pullman police, if he was thinking ahead, like, okay, I'm stalking these people, they're going to be my kill. They have a dog, I will let it live. I'm going to be like BTK, right? And then he starts seeing messages that Kaylee's leaving, like leaving, like not coming back. And Kaylee has the dog. So if Xana was the girl, because she looks very much like the girl he went out with a date, like long dark hair. If that's his type, and she was the one he saw, and she also worked at Mad Greek, so that also kind of works out. And her sister went to Washington State University. If he keyed in on her, followed them back to that neighborhood, even before school started, then started stalking them. And the Otoro family was killed on January 15th, which this year will be, if you did math, this Sunday. So what if he was waiting? What if he was going to do it on a Sunday? What if he was going to do it on the very same date that BTK did those killings? But Kaylee was effing it up by leaving. That would make him, because remember Steve Consalvis said, oh, she was so much worse than Maddie and blah, blah, blah. What if he was pissed off? Because he had this scenario in his head. It was going to be just like the Otaros. He's going to kill 4 people. He's going to leave a dog alive. He's going to do it on the same date. Like, he's so clever. Nobody would know, but he would know. Like, it would be his little homage. And instead, this girl's going to leave. Oh, the hell she is. Maybe that's why he drove around so many times. Like, he didn't want to do it early. Maybe he was going to wait even later in the school semester. Maybe like till right before the end of the year. So he would naturally just go home and all the students would leave for summer break and the cops would be screwed. And people would move out of that house anyways. Like, but again, but he needed that dog. That's what I kind of sort of think. Sorry, I'm going off on the BTK thing. I really do think that. So afterwards, was he freaked out? Did he go into a national forest and throw away the knife? I don't think the knife was really a K-bar because I think he dropped that on purpose. And I think he didn't have any DNA. That's his mistake. But I think he wanted people to think it was a K-bar. If you remember, they said he drove down by that. The next day he drove into Culbertson. He drove a couple hours away, really south. And they said he stopped by Katie's Coffee and there was a chef store that he was parked by. And then he went to Albertsons and blah, blah, blah. All I can think of is, did he go to that chef store before? Like a chef store. What do they sell, people? What do chefs use? Knives. Is that where he got? I don't really think it was a K-bar. I think that again was a little joke to him. I don't know. I'm thinking too much. But oh, and I did tell you, right? Did I tell this? See, now I'm getting confused between what I wrote down. He went to the medical center for a regularly scheduled, like, I guess they have to go each semester just to get a checkup on the 17th. So he went and they said he was charming. That was reported today. Here's my problem. And somebody goes, well, it's bullshit and it's irrelevant. First of all, take your emotion out of it. I love Lori House, but seriously, it's not bullshit. And it's not irrelevant because did he have any marks on his hands? I don't care how he acted. Yeah, that's irrelevant. He was charming, whatever. Did he have any marks on his hands? That bothers me. He should have had scratches. We know there were defensive wounds on 2 of the girls. We know supposedly he left DNA already on the little snap. Like, did he not get anything on himself? Nothing. That bothers me. So when all these people are saying like, oh, he was messy because he left that thing. Yeah, but did he leave that because that was supposed to make people think it was somebody from the military and that the weapon was K-bar when it wasn't? I don't know. But I really, really don't like that they didn't say, and he had scratches on his hands or he had a weird rash, like he had like marks somehow. I don't like that he went in and all they said was he was charming. That bothers me. I'm concerned. I'm concerned. You tell your older children not to put, yes. Thank you, Suzanne. 100%. I always say, what can we learn from this? And Suzanne, if I had a crown, I'd do a shot for you. Yes, but I'll drink Moscow Mule to you. Tell your kids. I mean, he could have potentially picked out to go to Washington State because he was looking at graduate schools and was looking at people's Instagram at the graduate schools there, around there. We don't know how far ahead he planned this. But he hooked onto those girls, and we know he followed on Instagram, and maybe that's how he found them even across the country while he was in Pennsylvania. That's scary as shit, to me. I've told my kids since they got on social media, private all your accounts. Don't put your real specific name. Let your friends know what your name is. Have them, tell them who you are on Instagram, private it, and then you can allow them to follow you. You don't need to be famous. Don't do that. And don't put yourself out. I mean, if you want to be half naked, it's your body. I'm all for it. I think the human body is beautiful, but there are crazy monsters. And I think if you want to be half naked to people that are seeing you half naked. Don't just put yourself out there. I guess unless you're a model who wants to do so, or an actress, or it's part of your job. But I personally agree with Suzanne not to put identifying information and not just to be completely like let anybody follow you. It's a way to get creepers, like serious disturbed creepers. And don't let them know where you live. I mean, those girls, you knew their whole lives by following them on Instagram. That's not their fault. I'm not victim blaming, but we do want to know, what can we learn from this? All right, so that's the BTK. I am sure we will find out more, and I am sure they are going along that path and looking for anything he dropped. Friday the 13th is coming up. What happens on Friday the 13th? Well, Richard Allen is going to in front of the judge Gall, the special judge, and she's going to hear about a change of venue. Maybe she'll decide, and the continuing the gag order on the case. They are the defense has filed what is, and I believe her, Lori Hollis. She does Children of Darkness and Light on YouTube. Really good channel. She knows, she's a lawyer. She knows all about the law, and she also quilts, which I love, and she has cats, which I love. I have cats and dogs, but still, she has really cute Oriental. I think they're Siamese. Like, I can't remember exactly. Anyway, she said that what they filed is typical at this point. They're going to file for all the discovery. Anybody said any notes, any pictures, any what'd she say? Like basically anything you could think of. And this is all very typical. And they also had to apply for funding for experts and investigation services, because in Indiana, you don't just get, it's not carte blanche. You can, as a um, being funded because you're indigent does not mean you get whatever. It still has to be approved by the judge. So that's going through. And so we will see him in court on Friday the 13th, which is kind of weird, right? Just interesting. It's also the day, Friday the 13th is the day the big, there's going to be a big drawing for the Mega Millions. So, hey, maybe somebody will win. And it won't be an unlucky day for them, except everybody who wins big, huge lotteries usually like ends up for some reason bankrupt and unhappy, which is weird. So maybe it does. Friday the 13th is the perfect day. All right. I just wrote more about, yeah, they were very interesting, and Brian turning his phone on and off, but it does make it harder for them. Larry Miliotti, I'm not helping you crimers, but leave your phone at home if you're going to do it. And we talked about Maya Miliete. All right, so that's what we have for tonight. I went way over, but you know what? It's going to be about the same time. I just started late. Sorry about that. I'm an East Coast girl living in a West Coast time. I'm Patty Lee, your dyslexic detective. Suzanne, it was great to have you. Oh yeah, it's really horrible. I had a little stalking situation. It wasn't too serious, but just in like before all this happened, and it's scary when someone sort of gets hones in on you. It's frightening. I'm glad that she has you as a mom and you can help her through that. Yeah, if at least on social media you can disappear and start again, right? Or you can block them, or I mean really you can just stop posting until they hook onto somebody else, because they will. That's usually how that works. I'm going to drink the rest of my Moscow Mule. I hope you all have a safe and wonderful night. Lock your doors, no matter where you live. If you live with a bunch of people, lock your bedroom door. Be careful on social media. I think we've got a couple of really good rules. And get this book, The Sociopath Next Door. It describes Brian Walsh, in my opinion, only speculation, to a T. It does. It's very interesting. You will love it. Can you see that book? If I hold it right there? I think it's backwards, but it's by Marcia Stout. If you're dyslexic, you probably can read it backwards. Very good book. Highly recommended. I also have The Gift of Fear over there, The Wisdom of a Sociopath. I am not a serial killer. American Murder Houses. I'll Be Gone in the Night. And then I've got a bunch of fictional ones. This is sort of my like crime area over here. I got the Zodiac, which has not been solved. So you guys be safe out there. All right. And I will see you on the True Crime Grapevine tomorrow for a nightcap. Bye.